Oh, hello, my family. Again, sorry, I can see it now. There's a little thing that says Teaser King on the bottom in the chat, and it wasn't there. So I'm sure there's people trying to chat with me. So again, I apologize for that, and that's why I came right back. So anyway, as we were talking, so these fourth downs really make it difficult to. It really makes it difficult for the scoring. So the scoring's down because they're not just kicking the field goal. So you got a lot of 5-minute drives that produce nothing. And the other team starts at their maybe 20 or 30 instead of starting instead of the team getting the points, kicking off, and then they got to drive. What you have is you have you have the teams driving to the 30, going for it on fourth down, not making it, and the other team starts. So they got a long field also, but they're not going to get a punt return or a kickoff return, something, or a fumbled punt, which happens all the time. So they're not getting that. All right. So these lines are from last night, and let's take a look at them. Thursday night game, Baltimore, Tampa. Hey, Bobby. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't quite understand. So we're talking about the New England game. I didn't understand why they played him, right? Because clearly he's not, Zappy's much better. So I'm not sure why you had to put him in to see he sucked. And, we'll go to Zappy in the second quarter. So you basically wasted a quarter and a half of a very valuable game. You're 3-3. You needed the win. And what are you doing? So didn't you know Jones sucked? I just went over the stats. 2 touchdowns and 5 picks. You don't need to play him to see that. Maybe you put him in the fourth quarter when they're way ahead or way behind. But you know Zappy's. You know what you got with Zappy. And you know Jones sucks. So what are you trying to do? Well, we'll give him a chance against the freaking Bears. Are you insane? They have a good defense. They just don't have an offense. So that's exactly what I was worried about when I see Jones starting. It doesn't make sense. Prescott, I kind of understood why he started, but I still would have preferred Rush. I would have locked Dallas if Rush was the quarterback. With Prescott, I got off the game. And a lot of these quarterbacks that came back, it was like the beginning of the season. Prescott was terrible. They didn't really score till the end. It was 10-6. They got a real late drive with like 4 minutes left to go up 17, and then they got a strip sack to the 5, and then they scored to make it look like they scored. It was really like a 10-6 game. Zappy gave them a nice spark initially, but second half they did nothing. I thought the defensive play calling on New England was horrible. You have to blitz these running quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Fields, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones from the Giants. You blitz them. You don't let them just sit there and then you kind of come out. See, so what they're doing is they're not really blitzing. They're in a 3-man rush that kind of goes around them, but they don't go to the quarterback. But then they don't do anything, and the Fields ran like he was Walter Payton yesterday. By the way, I heard that the Colts will be benching Matt Ryan for the kid from Texas for the rest of the season. I love the kid from Texas. They drafted him last year, and I thought he should have started. I thought he was the best quarterback. I think he should have played last year, and they went with Wentz. Then they bring in Matt Ryan, and the kid is very good, the kid from Texas. I think he's much better. Now, maybe sometimes these new guys aren't ready, but that's my whole point with Zappy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's I think he was from SMU, went and transferred to Texas or something. but he's a winner. He's very good. Problem at Texas, they didn't really have a running game and they didn't have a defense, but he fought and he'll put up points. They'll be in the 20s with this guy. So that's good news. I mean, Ryan, as I just read the defensive the quarterback numbers, he's got like, 3 or 4 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Throws a pick 6, which we discussed. That play was ridiculous. What's with these outs? I throw a 3-yard out and they get returned for touchdowns. So the risk is I'm going to throw a pick 6. The reward is a 3-yard gain. What the fuck is that? That's the stupidest play I've ever seen. So I'm really curious about that. But so that's what you have. So that's good news. Is Indy playing this week or are they on the bye? Oh, they got Washington. Yeah, that's a whole different game with Heineke and Erlinger will be a whole different game. It'll be a lot more scoring. So that's the other thing you got to keep an eye on. I'm telling you about these teams that are under, over, bad offense, bad defense. And then they make these changes. Ellinger, look at Seattle. Russell Wilson's hurt, So as you change quarterbacks, you've changed the team. So an under team might be an over team. Or like Dallas, Prescott throws a lot of interceptions, doesn't score. Rush doesn't score a lot, but they play lower scoring games that they win because he doesn't turn the ball over as much as Prescott does. So Cooper Rush, now they go back to Prescott. Now we don't know what to expect. Very, very weak offense now with that. He can't read a defense. So when you make the change, you've changed the team. As look at New England now, much more scoring with Zappy. What the fuck they did yesterday, that's where you fire Patricia. If it was Patricia's idea, you fire him because you didn't change when Brady was hot. You didn't take Brady out and bring back Bledsoe. You just stuck with Brady. So I can't believe what I just saw yesterday, that he didn't stick with Zappy because Zappy in 2.5 games looked fine. What are you doing? So that's very confusing there. All right. So keeping that in mind. So let's go. Baltimore, Tampa. My line's Tampa -3 at home against Baltimore, who's not very good, as I've said. So Tampa's an even game, an even team, meaning they score mid-20s and they give up mid-20s against Tampa, who's an under team, who scores 18-19, gives up 18-19. Now Baltimore's a 1.5-point favorite, over under a 44.5. Tampa's not going to give you much. How does Tampa play Lamar Jackson? Well, we look at the Atlanta game, 21-15. Mariota runs like Lamar Jackson, better quarterback. We look at Tampa last week against Carolina, and they couldn't handle P.J. Walker, but it was 21-3. So Tampa's problem is really they're not scoring. So against Baltimore, I would think this is an under because I don't see where Tampa's going to take a magic pill and start scoring. Their offensive line's terrible. Their receivers are terrible, and they're only running for 60 yards a game. As I pointed out in the stats, they're not running. He was never the same after that Super Bowl. He was that's because Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, went to Frisco, and then they didn't replace him with a good coordinator. That's why they hired Frank Wright, because he's the offensive coordinator. But in Atlanta, they didn't have a good offensive coordinator. So now we're looking at this and going, okay, maybe this is what they have. So a lot of it's the coordinator, but really it's the receivers. Are they getting hurt? And do you have a running game? So Tampa isn't running. Even though they got Fontenot, they're not running very good. So I think this is an under game. I can't play Baltimore as a road favorite in Tampa. Now, Tampa sucks. And I'm not going to say now they're going to wake up or their backs are against the wall. The backs were against the wall, and they just shit their pants the last 2 weeks. See, the back against the wall applies to a Kansas City or a Buffalo or somebody who's lost 2 in a row who's very good, or Ohio State, or one of those teams that are very strong and they lost. Okay. Or maybe they lost 2 in a row and they played 2 tough teams. Okay. But, like Oak State, if Oak State would have lost to Texas and they had just lost to TCU, their backs were again. Actually, Utah and Oak State's back were against the wall because Utah lost to Florida and UCLA. So they've got 1 loss in conference. So they have to win out. And you got the same thing with Oak State was undefeated, lost to TCU, who is undefeated now. So Oak State has to win out. But Oak State's an outstanding team. So their back is against the wall every week, which is what we love. That's what we're looking for, teams like that. The NFL, all the teams suck, so it's really hard to really get into anybody that needs to win, except for maybe Buffalo or Kansas City, that is any that can do it. You have to have a team that can do it, right? Name me 2 teams in the league that can. So Baltimore minus the 1.5. D-Bay was playing better offense with Arians. Todd Bowles' defense. Todd Bowles is not a coach. Is not a good coach. I mean, he was the coach at the Jets, and they sucked. They were terrible. It's okay. He's a defensive coordinator, but who's your offensive coordinator? And it's still, I don't know who it is. And really, it's Tom Brady, but it's not really the coordinator's fault. It's where's their running attack, their offensive line they're not fixing, and all these receivers that are new. See, the problem is you got Julio Jones, which you paid a lot of money to, who is out, right? That's what's killing you. If he was healthy, they wouldn't be this bad. Without him, you got these new guys that don't know what they're doing and are very weak, and therefore they're not playing good. So that's the problem. So you have, no Julio Jones, and the backups can't catch. So Brady, and again, as it was explained to me by Kurt Warner, Russell Wilson at Denver is expecting the receiver to break at 10 yards and go to the sideline, and he's not doing. He's doing it at 11 or 9. And he's not making the same break that a Metcalf or a Lockett would do. That's Russell Wilson's problem. Brady's got these new receivers that aren't making the break that they should be making. I don't buy Mark Evans dropped the ball 2 minutes into the game and that ruined them. Come on, they're a stronger team than that. Brady's not going to let them go. But that's what's happening. So right now you have a very fragile Tampa Bay team. Denver, now this game's in London, Denver, Jacksonville. I don't understand these London. First of all, London is financially broke. So I can't imagine I'm living in London and I'm running to a football game to see Denver and Jacksonville play. And I got to worry about eating and paying my heating bills and my rent because my economy collapsed. So what the fuck am I going to a football game for? So I have Jacksonville 7, over under is 40. The real line's 3.5. I'm wondering why is Jacksonville 3.5? Denver doesn't have Russell Wilson. They got Rippon. Now maybe Russell Wilson plays. This we'll find out. Now, what I hate about London is the jet lag. You're going from Denver to London, which is a long, long flight. When I go to Europe, I'm going next month. It's leave at 5:00 Detroit time, and I get into Frankfurt, Germany at 6 a.m. I've lost my night, right? And then I go to the next place, and I get there at 10, 11 o'clock. I haven't slept. I'm not sleeping on the plane because really you're still at 1 or 2 o'clock body-wise, so you're not really tired and hard to sleep on a plane. You watch a few movies and then you get there and it's 6 a.m., but you got to stay up for your next flight. And then you're waiting to get to your hotel. And then do you really want to go to sleep at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m? No. So you lose that whole day, which screws up your clock. And it's a real rough thing. So yeah, let's keep going to London. That'll help the teams. And how much money are they paying you to send these teams over. How much, I mean, it's all about money, but it's so stupid. You've drained all the commercials you can on these games so much that you can't even watch football on Sunday. I can barely watch football on Saturday, but I can't watch it on Sunday. I just wait for the YouTube and I can watch 10 games, 15 minutes a game. Like I watched last night's game at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they made Fields look like a superstar. Apparently, New England has no idea. They've never Bill Belichick's never seen a running quarterback in 50 years of coaching. Or maybe he doesn't have Lawrence Taylor, and therefore he doesn't have a defense. And he really can't coach because it wasn't really him. It was really Lawrence Taylor. Maybe that's what it is. And I always think the coaches get the credit when they have a Brady, or a Lawrence Taylor. And then when they don't, you really see the emperor with no clothes. So a lot will depend on Russell Wilson playing. If he doesn't play, this is a 40 over-under. This is clearly two defenses that don't give up a lot, two offenses that suck. Denver's strong defense. Lawrence, it's horrible. Rippon, what are you going to do with him? He's waiting to play. He's waiting to play Wyoming. He's got no, he's from Boise. So this is under. You can't trust Jacksonville. This is the problem. I can't trust Trevor Lawrence to win a game. We already were there against Houston, 13-6. They lost to Houston. He throws a pick in the end zone late in the game. I think the score is 6-6. Denver, you can't trust Rippon. Jacksonville, you think they have a low-scoring defense until they play Indy to a 41-37 game. You don't know what the fuck you got with Jacksonville. And that's the problem with the league. It's too inconsistent. But when you look at the averages, it averages out, they give up 20. But one game will be a 30 or a 40, and one game will be a 6. That's really the problem. So you try to base it on who they're playing. If they're low-scoring teams, it should be a low-scoring game. But look at the Bears last night. That game, I circled the under. I would have played it under. It was 40. I mean, this is where they're thinking. And it ends up at a 47, which was close in a teaser. But I think it went from 39 to 40. I mean, this is what they're thinking the game's going to be, right? All the numbers point, low-scoring game. We'll make the over-under 39-40, and they score 47 in the game. And there's no way you could predict it fixed, possibly because there was a lot of money bet on New England and a lot of money bet on the under. So maybe it was, but that's a weird fix, something like that. I don't think so. Okay, now we're on Sunday afternoon, Arizona, Minnesota. Minnesota lane 3 over under 48. They're both even teams. Arizona's got a weaker defense. So they're an over defense. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, both quarterbacks are weak in the fact that they have more interceptions than touchdowns. So it's a new little wrinkle I'm putting in. So Murray has like 5 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I'm calling him weak because he is. And, they both kind of run a little bit. I mean, Minnesota to not score more with Jefferson and Thielen and Cook, it's just incredibly bad coaching. I mean, because you got balance. They can't defend you. They can't defend Jefferson. I mean, what the fuck are they doing? So it's all Kirk Cousins again. I don't know why he's even in the NFL. He sucked at Michigan State. So you're lane 3. Do you take over? Do you take Arizona? Do you take Minnesota +3? I don't like Minnesota +3. Do I trust Arizona 9? Now, yes, here, Arizona is a strong road dog, as I've said. So Arizona should play them well. And they scored a lot against New Orleans, which isn't the same team. But I don't think Minnesota's got this great defense either. It's not like it used to be. So probably the over you can get away with here. Atlanta, Carolina. Atlanta 7-41. Carolina, we know. P.J. Walker. They were an under team with Baker Mayfield and with McCaffrey. Now they got Chuba Hubbard and they got PJ Walker, and they shouldn't score a lot. Atlanta is a high-scoring team. So do you take the high-scoring team, Atlanta, down to 1, saying, oh, they're going to win? Can you trust that? Carolina just beat Tampa, so they're not that bad. Hey, Christopher. Good afternoon. Nick, like in Dallas, under Raiders over this week. Well, let me take a look at them. I think Dallas under is good just about any week, except for maybe a Buffalo or Kansas City. And I don't believe they got those. So this will be interesting. You got Philly and Buffalo off of buys, so they're not going to be as good. Excuse me. So do we take Atlanta -1? Are they that strong? Carolina, can we trust them? Is it an over or an under? It's really hard to say because Atlanta does score. Carolina, they don't have a great defense, even though they're an under defense. We know with PJ Walker, they're not going to get a lot. Somehow they got 20 on Tampa's defense. So I think Atlanta -1 might be the play. They've been scoring much better and playing. They beat the Niners, so let's give them some credit for that. So we'll see. We'll have to dissect it a little bit more. Miami and Detroit. Miami's laying 3 and 50. Well, I mean, Tagovailoa looked like shit. What else is new? Detroit looks like shit. What else is new? An over defense, and somehow they played really well against Dallas. I thought it was really should have been 17-6, but again, Prescott's terrible, but so's Tagovailoa. I don't see how Miami can be you can play a -3 on the road. They're not that good. Over under a 50, I'm really scratching my head on that. Detroit, weak defense, but they look much better, but now their offense is gone. So can they score on Miami? Yeah, Miami doesn't have that good of a defense. I would say Detroit can score on them. Do we think Miami's going to win right out? No. I mean, I can't trust Tagovailoa. They barely beat Pittsburgh. And Pitt would have won if they had a normal quarterback, but Pickett's so bad that they couldn't do anything. So in my mind, Pitt would have won the game in Miami, and Tagovailoa looked like shit. So I don't see how Miami blows out Detroit, and then over under probably in the game should be in the 20s. You got a 50. I don't know how you go over 44 here. I don't know what Detroit does. Again, Swift is out. Now the St. Brown guy's out. Well, it doesn't matter with him. So they're not balanced. They're not scoring, but Miami doesn't have that killer defense. So probably an over here. I am not touching Detroit in 9. Christopher, Jared Goff seems to be a capable quarterback for Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised to see them covering 9.5. Well, yeah, but how do you bet on Detroit? They're just the worst team. Well, Goff, I don't like Goff because he's a choke, and he choked when he was on Utah in college or on Cal, and then he choked on the Rams. Remember that Super Bowl where they're still waiting to score on New England, and then he choked in the playoffs a couple years ago, and they got rid of him. So he's not a good he's a good quarterback like Stafford. When we're down 20 and then we can get a couple late touchdowns, then he's good. So yeah, Detroit might get the 9.5. They'll be down 20 and score the late touchdown to backdoor everybody. So yeah, I could see that, but Detroit's just a terribly coached team and not, maybe Tagovailoa. I don't know. It's probably an over. I think he'll find the receivers. He'll play better, but he's probably scared. He got a pretty big whiplash and probably played tentatively. And Pitt, I'm sure, blitzed them. I don't know if Detroit's capable of blitzing. They just have such a bad defense. So I'll leave it at that. Probably an over if you dare play a Detroit game. Philly and Pitt. Philly -10, 44. Pitt's a W team, no offense, defense, missing TJ Watt. Philly, an A team. As I pointed out, very strong offense, good defense. Hurts, okay, runs a little bit, but he can hit Smith a little bit. They run the ball pretty good with Boston. So it's a hard number because you're laying 10, but Pitt's such a weak offensive team, and the quarterback just sucks. I do see Philly. One of the few times I might lay more than 3 in the NFL would be here. Do I go over or under? Hard to say. Pitt scores in the game, and Pitt's defense will shut down Philly a little bit. I think this is actually an under also. Pitt, let's look at it. How are they going to score on Philly, right? They're not. Pickett, certainly not. He'll throw his picks. And then Philly, they'll 17-0 or something like that. I mean, Philly's not going to light up Pittsburgh. They still have that good defense. So, yeah, it's probably an under. Oakland, New Orleans. Oakland, I'm surprised Oakland's favored in the game. I have New Orleans by 3 just because it's at home. Dalton threw his interceptions, but then threw some touchdowns. Oakland with Carr and Adams should light up. New Orleans has no defense. This is over all over the place. Dallas Raiders. Raiders over this week against New Orleans, who has no defense and a good offense. And Oakland scores. Yeah, I like this game over, especially 41. All you need is a 20-point game, like the Baltimore Cleveland, 23-20. That's all you need. And I think this easily gets there. So, yeah, that's a good one. Dallas under. Let's see. Chicago, Dallas minus 10. Over under of 43. Now, I don't know what the Bears are now. All of a sudden, apparently they have an offense, or at least Fields running around. Good luck with Micah Parsons. How did they do against Philly? I'll use that as this thing. So they lost to Philly. What was that score? 26-17. They played a 43. Cooper Rush threw 3 picks. It's going to be a tough defense against the Bears. They gave up 26 to Hurts. So will the Bears might score. I don't think they'll score 33, but I don't think Dallas lays back like New England did. I think Dallas attacks with Micah Parsons. I can't imagine they didn't lay back against Philly. They're not going to lay back here. So how do you lay 4 with Prescott, who's going to have his turnovers? I don't think Dallas, is a go for it on 4th down team. Maybe they are. And then Chicago. So I agree with you, Nick. Under 49, close. Who are the Bears now? I mean, they play a 12-7 game with Washington. And then they put up 33 on a New England team. Now, let's say they had injuries to their secondary and they didn't want to blitz. Maybe that strategy worked really well, only giving up 33 points. And having Mac Jones out there throwing interceptions didn't help you either. But you're going to have Prescott throwing interceptions. So hard for Dallas to win by 4. I think the under is the play. Or do you like the Bears in 16 against this defense? I think it's an under. I think they held the Lions. I think you'll see a score like that. This should be a low-scoring game. I think the real Bears will come back to earth, and I think Dallas will not sit in a 3-man rush against Fields and let him run all over the place, when that's the only way you can possibly lose is to let Fields run. I mean, just incredibly bad coaching by New England. New England minus 3. Who's the fucking quarterback? If it's Jones again, I'm taking the Jets. And it should be Zappy, because I think the little experiment, let's go back to Jones and see what he's got, shows you he doesn't have anything. Zappy's much better. So I'm assuming Zappy plays, which makes it a much more difficult game with New England with Zappy than with Jones. Christopher, there's no way Fields gets the ball out consistently with that Dallas defense blitzing the heck out of him. that Chicago line under makes sense. Well, that's what I didn't understand with New England. That was the whole point of the New England play was they were going to blitz Fields and he wouldn't do anything, but they didn't blitz him. What the fuck was Belichick thinking? We're gonna not rush Fields and let him run for 100 yards on us. It was a joke. I mean, it was the worst coach team I ever saw in my life yesterday. I mean, Zappy's 14 should have been enough to win 14-3 or something like that. So with Zappy, but again, New England, New England's not that good. Well, they were a B team. They're probably now an E team, which means they're even. Good defense. The Jets, I'm still trying to figure them out, but they played the Denver game under. This game should be an under also. I kind of like the Jets in 9. They're on a roll. Even if they lose, it'll be close. They go to Denver and win. Okay, Russell Wilson didn't play. And they beat Miami against Skylar Thompson. So they haven't really beaten anybody yet. So keep that in mind. If it's Jones, we take the Jets. If it's Zappy, then we got to figure out what to do with it. Then maybe we take New England. But I don't like New England on the road. And I don't even know what the line is. That was yesterday's line. After what happened last night, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets were favored. Now, tease the dog if the Jets are favored and Zappy's the quarterback, which gets down to the whole point. For what it's worth, Jets just traded for James Robinson out of Jacksonville. What is he, a running back or a wide receiver? I don't know the guy. I really don't pay attention to too many Jacksonville players. He's a running back. So the Jets lost their running back, and they've been running the ball a lot. So that makes sense. So that's good. The question is, when does Jacksonville trade Trevor Lawrence so they can get Rising from Utah or Hooker from Tennessee? So, yeah, the Jets, again, it just depends on New England's quarterback. If it's, it should be Zappy. It'll be a tight game then. Maybe you take the Jets in 9. If it's still New England -3, which I'm sure a lot of people are pissed at New England today. I watched the line went to 8.5, 9. So people were on New England, which I knew was trouble because Vegas is going to say, okay, New England, you're not winning. But that's the beauty of the teaser. They weren't going to win by 9, but you can still, they'll win by 3 to fix the game. Tennessee, 1.5, 40 against Houston. I had Tennessee by 7. This line's really kind of strange. Both teams are under teams. Houston has very little offense, yet they seem to score. Houston, what was Houston? 38-20 to Oakland. So why? They still scored 20. So Houston scores on you, even though, it's weird because the whole league, they're scoring 19, 20, 21, 22 points. Nobody really scores a lot but Buffalo and Kansas City. So when they score 20, I don't know how to rank it now. Is that an under? Is that an over? What is 20? What they scored 20. It's an over game against Oakland, but is 20 and over now? I'm thoroughly confused. College is a piece of cake. I got teams scoring over 30 all over the place, and it's just easy overs. UCLA, Utah, USC, Oak State, Baylor, Washington, Oregon, boom, 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 boom. Piece of cake. Tennessee. Tennessee's now averaging 50 points a game. So then you have this, and you're like scratching your head going, well, what the fuck? Is Houston, even though they're that bad and they're that weak, they still put up a 20. Tennessee really didn't score on Indy. They got a pick 6. Will they get a pick 6? Probably against Houston, but Houston might get one too. Over under a 40. Again, Tennessee plays lower scoring games, but how do you go under 46? Seems kind of low. Over 34, maybe that works. We got to look at the season series. So you go into scores and odds, you go in where the game is, and then you can click on it, matchup, and it'll take you to the bottom, which will take you to the history. And let me show you. And then you can see the last 4 or 5 games they played. So let me get there. All right, so let's look at NFL for next week, and I'll just show you. So let me quickly look at the jet line. New England's down to one. See, they're saying it opened at 1.5, which it didn't because it was 3 yesterday. Now it's down to 1.5. So again, we got to see who the thing is. Okay, so here's scores and odds. Here's Tennessee, Houston. So you click on matchup right here, and it takes you down. So now it takes you into the matchup a little bit, and then you scroll it down. And then on the bottom, now you got the history. So you can see now we really care about maybe the last. And here's where the problem is because of all the new changes. And then what do we got? Because Mills is the quarterback the last 2 years. You can't really go back 5 years because you don't have the continuity is not there. The coaching changes, the quarterback changes. So we go back like 2 years. So we look at it. Tennessee won at Houston 28-25, close game. Houston won at Tennessee 22-13 last November. Well, actually, these are both last year's games. So because they played into 22 now, that's really the 21. So Tennessee wins at Houston. Houston wins at Tennessee 22-13. Tennessee wins at Houston 41-38. Tennessee wins at home 42-26. So if we go to the last four, Tennessee's won 3 of the last 4. This game's in Houston. Tennessee won in Houston 28-25, and Tennessee won in Houston 41-38. So what do we take out of that? Tennessee wins, but they're close. You can tease the dog or you can tease Tennessee. That's what we take out of that. What do we got here? Tennessee 1.5. You can take Houston in 7.5 if you trust it. You can also probably take Tennessee in 4.5, seeing how they've won 5 out of 6. And they're close. You could get away with Tennessee, who I think is the better team. Over under 28-25, 22-13, 41-38, and 42-36. So the games in 20 were high scoring. Last year was a 35 and a 53. So the game in Houston was 28-25. So I think this is an over, even though it's a 40. I think these two teams play higher scoring games. And I think you could tease the dog or you could take Tennessee in 4.5 if you think Tennessee's that strong of a team that you can do that with. I personally wouldn't really touch Tennessee here getting 4.5, but I certainly can't touch Houston getting 7.5. Another typical example of how shitty the NFL is, where you can't. What are you supposed to do with these teams? So that's really the problem. Is I have no idea what to expect here. So what's my probable outcome? Right, that's what we were talking about the other day. You're doing this to get a probable outcome, and you know what you're going to get from Alabama and from Georgia and Ohio State. You know the outcome pretty well. What are we going to get in the NFL? We don't know the outcomes very well. Between all the coaching changes and all the quarterback changes and all the injuries and all this, let's go on 4th down, let's go for 2 points. It's so fucked up that we don't know what the probable outcome is. And then we keep getting these changes. Davis Mills is not a good quarterback. How do you bet on him? So we want to bet on Brady and Rodgers, but now they've gone and they play like shit, so I can't even go with them. Here I could have Tampa Bay as a home dog. Before the season, this would have been locked, 100-star lock. I can't even I can't take Tampa in 7.5. I can't take Baltimore in 4.5. So it's an over and under. So I'm really a lot of over-unders this year. And as you can see, I named you all the teams with the low scoring defenses. Those are your unders, but Buffalo's the A team because they score a lot. Most of the under teams also don't score, like a Houston, a Tennessee, a Giants, Washington, Indy, Frisco, the Rams. I mean, the Rams are a prime example of an under team, even though, well, we got Stafford, but they don't score and they have a fairly good defense. So they're like an 18-18. That's what you got. So really the average is like a 35 to 40 point game, unless you get an Oakland and a New Orleans who average in a 50-point game. And then you get your Pitts and Phillies where it's a strong Philly team and a weak Pitt. So you got an over playing an under. Who the fuck knows what you're going to get? So that's what we got a lot in the NFL. Now, I smelled it out last week. I was very happy that I fairly figured it out. I got blindsided on Zappy and did some trapping to save it. But, yeah, it's very if Zappy plays, I think they beat Chicago, but you throw off the whole chemistry of the team because before the game they're going, what the fuck are we going back to Jones for? All the Zappy people get pissed. You fuck the locker room up when you do that. And I think that's why they lost. Plus they didn't blitz Fields, which was unbelievable. So anyway, so Tennessee, Houston, I don't know. Give me a score, probably a close game, probably tease it. Or maybe go over. They seem to play, over 34 should. I mean, Houston will get somehow 20 points. Tennessee, are they that strong defensively? I don't know. They're both, yeah, they are from a point standing, but we'll have to look at other games. Seattle Giants, tease the dog is my thought. Seattle -3 is -3, over under of 45. The Giants, I'm not even going to look at over under. I'm just going to say they're going to score in the 20s, which they did against Green Bay, which they did against the game. Who was the other week? The Giants against Baltimore was where is it? 24-20. Green Bay 27-22. And then here against Jacksonville, 23-17. So the Giants, I'm just going to look at those last three games and going, they're going to score in the 40s. I don't know what you call it, just in the 40s. Here you got them, a 45. Seattle scores. I think Metcalf got hurt, but I don't know how serious. Geno Smith looks fine. Looks like Russell Wilson. The Giants are going to score. Their defense is okay. I think this is an excellent over and an excellent Giants +9. The Giants, especially if Metcalf isn't playing, I think you take the Giants. We know Jones sucks, but he's running the ball. Seattle, we got to look at how they play Kyler Murray because that's the tape measure, right? How does Seattle play Kyler Murray is going to tell you how they play, how they're going to play Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones can't complete a pass over 5 yards. So it becomes him running the ball. And Barkley's going to run, and they don't have receivers. So it's a running team that somehow manages 20 with a good defense. Seattle should score, but again, their defense sucks. So without Metcalf, maybe this doesn't go over. Maybe you take the Giants without Metcalf, with Metcalf. It's a 40-point game. The over-under is 45. You go over 39. I think you get there. But I think I got to just look at the last 4 games and skip the first 2 weeks because I'm getting skewed by bad numbers, and then the teams really aren't what they appear to be in the numbers. Todd Watkins, hi Todd. Got to rewatch later, but I'm turning in from last week. NFL was on point, like Stacey Adams, professor. The Zappy game was a wild, weird one. Giants have been close every game this season, and they've covered it. They've been a very live dog. Seattle held the Chargers to 23 points. Giants can sniff around that. Well, I think it's a 40-point game. The question is going to be Metcalf, if he's healthy or not. I heard he got hurt. I don't know how serious. Lockett should be fine. If you have those two and Walker, Seattle will score in the 20s, and the Giants will get in 20. It's a good game. Christopher, this will probably be the Giants' biggest test so far, in my opinion, finally going up against a coach who actually knows how to coach. Well, he's probably the only one. Do you think he would have handled Fields the same way? Well, you're going to watch him against Jones, but he's certainly not going to do that. What's that, Todd? Did you I don't know what that is, Todd. Well, he's the best coach. Belichick, what the fuck was he doing last night? Why would he even go to Jones? That blows my mind. He didn't take Brady out, and then for Bledsoe, what was he taking? What are you missing about Zapke? He beats the Lions by 29. He beats Cleveland 35-13, and he does Green Bay very well. What the fuck are you looking at? Jones sucks. I don't know. It's beyond me. Anyway, so Washington. I like the Giants. If Metcalf's out, if he plays, I like it over. Washington, Indy. Now, apparently, Ellinger is going to quarterback for Indy, the guy from Texas, who I really like, who I thought should have been the quarterback last year instead of going to Wentz. Washington's got Heineke, so that's fine. Sorry, meaning I like your theory on the Seattle Giants scoring. Okay, yeah, I just can't. It doesn't. I don't know what it is. It just comes across as a Brown thing. Hey, Derek. Really didn't matter. Professional Chicago kicked their ass. Absolutely, they kicked. Well, had you blitz Fields, he wouldn't have ran for 100 yards. That's my point. Because in the other games, look at the Washington game, he didn't run for 100 yards like that, and he was wide open. So that's my point. Yeah, Chicago's defense. Yeah, that's why I knew Jones was going to have trouble. Zappe put up 14 on the defense. I don't know what happened in the second half. It's funny when you watch the highlights; they only show the highlights. I didn't see a whole lot of New England in the second half on the highlights. Yeah, Chicago looked well. Chicago's defense played the way I thought. I was shocked that their offense scored more than 10 points. So Washington spread here. I got Indy minus 2.5, over under of 40. They're both under teams. However, under Matt Ryan, they're an under team, and under Wentz, they're an under team. Here's where you got to rebuild everything. These stats are meaningless, so let's look at what happened with Washington this week with Heineke. They beat Green Bay 23-21. They played a 44 with Green Bay. I look for a similar score against Indy with Ellinger. Ellinger is a very good quarterback. Looked very sharp at Texas. I won a lot of money on him there, and they played a lot of over games. I remember against Oklahoma, it was like 55-54. He's a very good. He can run, but he's not a runner per se. He wants to pass, but he can run when he needs to. Sort of like Russell Wilson and Mahomes. They're not really runners, but they can run. That's how Ellinger is. So I look at an over here. I think he's a very good quarterback, and Heineke I think is very good. Now, do I like Washington at 8.5? With Ellinger, I don't know what to expect. Again, we go to the unknown. What is the outcome? We don't have a clue because we don't know. Ellinger's never played. How can we say if he's going to be good or bad? We know what Matt Jones is, and we know Zappe immediately is good. So we don't know what Ellinger is right now. So we got to get data on Ellinger to go, oh, yeah, we can bet him, or we can't bet him, or it's an over, or it's an under. So it's very difficult right now. The Niners and the Rams. I know the Niners own the Rams, like 8-9 against them, 8-1. I'm a little surprised that the Niners are laying 1.5. Maybe I should go through the lines one more time. I went through them last night, but let's see what changed. Okay. So we're going to walk through the lines real quickly. Baltimore 1.5, 45.5, up from 44.5. Jacksonville 3 and 39.5 from 40, and from 3.5 to 3. Dallas is 9.5, down from 10. Where's Dallas? Yeah, they're all impressed with the Bears. 9.5, 42.5, down from 43. Oakland is 1.5, 49.5, up from 47. They're listening to you, Nick. Atlanta 4.5, Wow, down from 7. They're 4.5, 41.5. I wonder what happened there because it says opening at 7, now 4.5. So what dumped it? Maybe there's an injury. Philly 10 to 10.5, 43.5, 44. Miami 3.5, 51.5. That went up from 50. Minnesota 3.5, up from 3. I'll leave it at 3, 48.5. New England down to 1.5. Nobody likes New England now. 40.5. We have to again see the quarterback. Tennessee 1.5, 40.5 hasn't changed. Seattle 3, 44.5. Maybe Metcalf is playing. Indy 3, 40.5. That really hasn't changed. It was 2.5. The Niners 1.5, 42.5. No change. Green Bay, Buffalo 10.5, 47.5. And Cincinnati 3, 47 with Cleveland. Okay, so that a few changes, nothing really outrageous. Bobby, I agree. New England got flat out embarrassed in their own house. Derek, I have to say my opinion. If Pittsburgh beats Philly and Green Bay beats Buffalo, something is going on. Something's already going on in the NFL, Derek. That's pretty obvious. Bobby, I think that there's already something going. Yeah, exactly, Bobby. That's the beauty of the teaser, though. They don't play to the teaser; they play to the spread. So if you're laying 7.5, you're fucked because they're going to win by 7 and no more. But in a teaser, you're laying 1. That's the beauty of the teaser. So they'll fix the game under the spread, but not under the teaser spread. So that's why teasers work so well. All right, so Frisco and the Rams, they're both under teams, over under 42. I love this game under. The Rams don't run the ball, and it's all Stafford and Kupp. The 49ers, I don't know where their defense went. They gave up a bunch to Atlanta, 28, and then they gave up 44 to Kansas City. Shanahan, again, doing his fold act. So I don't know. The Niners had this great defense that's gone, but it's still in the stats. That's why I think I just got to look at the last 3 or 4 weeks and say, this is what the team is. But even that, the problem with stats, you can use them to a point, but it's who do they play? The Niners against Kansas City and the Niners against Detroit are going to give you 2 different, very different results because they're going to shut out Detroit, but KC put up 44 on them. Are they a terrible defense, 44, or are they a very good defense at 0? And that's the problem. It's who did they play determines what. So really, in this case, you go to the Frisco, LA trends, like I just showed you on the Tennessee, and you see what kind of games they play. If I go back to when they played earlier on, Frisco won 24-9 in Frisco, so it was a 33. I would expect the same type of score, low scoring. Rams had trouble scoring. Now, is Bosa playing? Do they have a lot of injuries? The problem with the injuries is I don't know who the hell these people are. You could tell me the quarterback's out. Now, before, if Richard Sherman was out, that was a big deal. Richard Sherman's out, or their linebacker, Bobby, whatever. If Mel Blount was out, if Ronnie Lott was out, if Lawrence Taylor was out, you would know. That would be critical. If look at the Bears, if Singletary was out, or Doug Plank or Richard Dent, you would know who they are, and you would go, oh, I can't bet the game because I can't tell you on the Niners except for Bosa. If they're injured, I don't even know if they're the starter. I've never heard of half these guys. They're all vanilla. They're all terrible. So to me, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of how I look at it. Christopher, I think it's because Mahomes is a much more dynamic quarterback that can hurt you a number of ways. The Goffs and the Staffords are more predictable and therefore easier to keep in check. Well, that's where I'm going with the pocket passers versus the runners. So how do you play Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, these kind of running quarterbacks, Fields? You're going to play them all the same. If you can handle one, you'll handle them all versus the pocket passers, the Staffords, the Rodgers, the Bradys, the whatever. Dak Prescott. I don't even know if PJ Walker runs or not. Lawrence can run, but I don't know. I don't know what he is. So you've got to break it into two categories, and that's my next assignment. That's my next process will be to break it into running quarterbacks and non-running quarterbacks. As we've heard, we know the league's going to more running quarterbacks, and we know they don't win, but we'd like to know individually when New England plays a running quarterback, apparently they can't deal with it. Lamar Jackson put up 37. Now Fields put up 33. They get not really a running quarterback in Wilson. He can run a little bit. Maybe he runs more because he says, shit, they can't defend me. I mean, they can't defend this style. So New England against Baltimore, against Buffalo, they're going to have a hard time because he runs so much. So now we know New England's weak point, and it was Jones also. So with Zappe, they're better. But again, against their running quarterback, they are terrible. So let's do that for every team. It'll be easiest with Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh because they played Lamar Jackson twice a year. Cincinnati doesn't have a problem with him. They killed him last year twice, and then this year was a 20-19 game or whatever. All right. So with that being said, I think the game's under. I don't think I can trust Frisco. Garoppolo sucks. I know I can't trust Stafford. They're not scoring at all. I don't think they've scored more than 20 all year. So this is two unders. This is an under game. Green Bay and Buffalo. What the fuck? Green Bay's an under team with Aaron Rodgers. Let's look at the last 3 weeks of Green Bay. We know they lost to the Giants 27-22. They lost 20-21 to Washington. And they lost to the Jets 27-10. Parentheses, 2 block punts for touchdowns. So they're not score. How do you score 21 on Washington and 22 on the Giants and 10 on the Jets? Give me a break. What was the Jets score? Yes, well, it was 16-9, but that's with ripping. This is Aaron Rodgers getting 10. So what are we looking at here? The Jets and the Giants really have good defense, which they do. I like the Jets and Giants. Do I see the Jets? Yeah, the Jets are New England, so I might take the Jets. Like the Giants. Green Bay, Buffalo. Now, Buffalo coming off the win at KC, where they keep going for fourth down and keep running. It's just a matter of time till Josh Allen has an ACL and tear, and he's out. So it's coming around the corner. Mike Vick, Steve McNair at Tennessee, the other big Culpepper, all got their knees. That was it. They're all done. They're all runners who couldn't throw. McNair a little. He got into the Super Bowl, but like the decision at the end, why would you throw the ball to the 3-yard line in the Super Bowl with no time left? You got to throw the ball in the end zone, but he's not capable of reading the defense. And that's what happened with Michael Vick. He couldn't even throw. I mean, he was really bad. He got better when he went to the Eagles, and Donovan McNabb taught him how to quarterback. He looked a lot better then, but it was too little too late. But Vic, he'd run around. That's all he did was run around. So what do we do with this game? We got an A team. We got the best team in the league, Buffalo, against Green Bay, who you've got to put the blinders on and say, I don't know the name of this team, but this team sucks. They don't have an offense. Their defense is okay. They're giving up in the 20s to Washington, the Giants, and the Jets. Buffalo is going to get at least a 30-point game here. Now, Green Bay with Rodgers, they will have pride. They will come to play. I think 10.5 is a big number here. I think, do I go over 47? Do I bring it to 41? Well, Buffalo's got a really good defense, as we saw. So if we take the Kansas City game, it was a 44. Are we going to get a 44? I think Kansas City scores more on Green Bay than it did on Buffalo, because we can see Green Bay isn't really, part of their stats are from that. They beat the Bears in the second game, like 27-10. So I don't know what we got here. I need more thought process, but I think Buffalo, I think they score a ton on them. I think they get into the 30s here. I really don't think they won't score 30. What is Green Bay going to do? This is a strong defense, as KC found out, although KC lit up San Francisco. So, again, it's a matchup. What will Rodgers do? And this will really show you how good Rodgers and the coach are developing a game plan to move on this team. I don't think defensively they can do anything, but how does Aaron Rodgers handle Buffalo? This is very interesting. I mean, he's seen them 100. He's seen teams like this 1,000 times in 15 years, but his receivers are terrible, right? They got to catch. He doesn't have a Devontae Adams. He's got Lazard. He's got some other guy. He's got running. They got Aaron Jones. He's a very good running back. He got 2,000 yards at Wyoming. And they were teammates. So he knows Josh Allen. They were teammates at Wyoming. Christopher, Rodgers just doesn't have his offensive weapons anymore outside of Jones and Lazard. I understand that. And that's the problem. It's like Tampa Bay. You brought in these receivers that just suck. And what he did at New England, Brady, without receivers except for Randy Moss that one year, it was always James White as a little security valve and Gronk. And right now he's got Fournette, who he throws it to. Rodgers has that. He's got Jones and he's got the guys. He's got a really good one from Baylor or from Oregon State. I think his name was Baylor from Oregon State, who I don't know if he's playing or not, but he was outstanding. So he's got to use the running backs, but I don't think you can just hand off and expect to do a lot on Buffalo. So he's got to use them as receivers. And what's his tight end look like? And so he's got Lazard, which they'll take away. So I think it's going to be hard for Green Bay to score on this game. I think Buffalo is going to score all they want. So I think it's a really, I could see Buffalo maybe winning by 20, and I could see Green Bay keeping it close because they got Aaron Rodgers who will figure out a way to do it. But I don't know what I'm watching. I mean, it was, 23-21 with Washington. I mean, Washington's got a good defense, not in Buffalo's league, but he did score the 20. So I find it hard that you shut out Aaron Rodgers. It's just he will find a fucking way to do something to score 14 points in this game. He's too good of a quarterback, and he can move around enough. He'll get them offside. He's too clever to get shut out here. I mean, Buffalo's very good, but I think the game goes over 41. I think Buffalo gets 30. Rodgers maybe gets 14. And again, I have a hard time laying 4.5 in the NFL. Talk about shady. I can easily see Buffalo not covering 10.5 here, especially if the line goes to 12. The line goes to 12, they'll never cover it. There'll be the phone call. You can win by 10, no more. I can easily see that happening. I have no thought of taking Green Bay in 16, which means I should be thinking of Buffalo in 4, but I don't want Green Bay in 16. I need some more time on this one, but I do think it's an over, although I don't think Green Bay scores that much. Maybe Buffalo gets there. And last but not least, my Cincinnati against Cleveland, over versus over. Cincinnati's defense is playing better. Burrow is looking like he's back at LSU. 5 touchdowns to Chase. Chase is just an animal. I see. Brady is a good quarterback, but goddamn is he ugly to watch when his team sucks ass. Yeah, well, he doesn't like to lose, and that's why we like him. That's why he won all the Super Bowls. I'm sprinkling a little on Packers money line. No, that's very crazy. I could see a little on Green Bay in 16.5, but a money line on the Packers. I don't see how they win the game because they can't generate enough points. And Buffalo's got a good defense. I could see maybe money lining, Chicago after what they did, although that Dallas defense. I don't know. I could money line Arizona, and maybe you money line the Jets, the Giants. Um, that's about it. I can't. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, Joe Burrow is great. So I got Cincinnati is actually a B team and Cleveland an over team. Cleveland will score. They play each other twice a year. Over under 47 is a joke. I like the over in this game. Here's where you got this really tough line Cincinnati -3 on the road. It's very difficult. What do you do with it? Because you would rather take Cincy as the dog. On these lines, you'd rather play the dog than play the -3 to +3. Now that I don't give a shit about going over 0, and like I said, TCU -3.5 was a joke. It should have been 10, and then that's why I go over. I don't see Cincinnati as a 10-point favorite. My line's 3. So I think this game goes over. Cleveland will score, has a weak defense. Cincy will light them up. Burrow will have a big game. If you can get a 3.5, I would say Cincinnati, but I think over is the best play here. Bobby, yeah, Green Bay just can't flip a switch. They just don't have the weapons to turn it up. Yeah, all they got is Aaron Rodgers, but until the receivers figure out how to catch, which blows my mind, you can't get good receivers with all the, go to UCLA, Utah, USC, Washington now, Oregon. Then you go to the to the Big 12 and TCU, Oklahoma, Texas, Oak State. You can't find receivers. Seriously, like, oh my God, I just gave you 25 receivers to choose from. Christopher, since his O-line finally looked good against Atlanta, amazing what Burrow can do when he actually has a pocket for once. And he's got Jamar Chase. I'm telling you, if Cincinnati gets Boutte from LSU, who's the best receiver in football, he's better than all this shit. This guy's a superstar. If they can land him in the first round, they won't lose another game. I mean, you can't cover them both. He'll have a field day because he's such a good quarterback. He knows to throw them open. He knows where to throw them. I'm praying they get that guy. He's such a good receiver. Ron Crawford, hello, Ron. Hey, brother, my apologies on yesterday's comment that they could have gone up by 8, which still can't understand. I don't remember your comment, Ron, but that's okay. No problem. They could have gone up by 8, which still can't understand. I don't. You'll have to repeat what you're talking about, Ron. I'm sorry. I just don't get that. Bobby, I think Tampa Bay got much better chances against Baltimore because they're at home following bad losses, and Brady is money as an underdog. Yeah. Raiders cheat. Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's what I didn't understand why they didn't kick the extra point to go up 8. Exactly, because that was such a noticeable thing at the end. Because I had locks in at KC -1, and if they do it, they go up 2, and then Oakland scores, and they needed the 2 to tie. That would have made perfect sense. So it didn't make any sense what they did, but no problem, Ron. That's okay. Well, I agree with you, Bobby, mostly, but this isn't like they just lost to Carolina 21-3. I better hear that they're doing like what you guys did and have a closed door meeting without coaches, and Brady rips them all a new asshole and takes their Rolexes away and says, "Look, this is it." Now, the ironic part is they're still in first place. Them in Atlanta are 3-4, so it's not like they're 3 games behind the New Orleans and Drew Brees. So, with that said, I will expect Brady to rip the team and the receivers to not drop the ball. And yeah, I agree with you. I will not take Baltimore here. The Tampa's not that bad. They still have Tom Brady. Whatever the fuck's going on, they still have Tom Brady. And yeah, they lost to PJ Walker. Maybe they play Lamar Jackson better. But I got a feeling it's like what is it? You don't want to kick a dog, let a sleeping dog lie or something like that. In other words, Don't piss them off. And I think Tampa is pissed off right now, 21-3. And again, it gets into the matchup. How are they going to handle Lamar? I hope they don't sit there in a fucking 3-man line and let him run all over the place. Hopefully they learned and will attack Lamar and make him throw to beat them, which he can't do. Again, the biggest problem Tampa has is their coach sucks. Brady is as clutch off the loss as I was in the bottom of the ninth of the base. Well, that's what I like to hear about. Ron Crawford, got to think over Thursday, right? I don't know yet. And the defense will come strong and force Lamar into turnovers as well. Hard to play Tampa over because they're not scoring. And I would only say if Julio Jones plays, because they no longer have Gronk, which is killing them. And then Jones went on to Kansas City, the running back. So they got Fournette, which they're not using enough. Too much passing. But he's only got Evans and Godwin. The other two receivers who are not double teamed aren't catching the ball. That's my problem with the over. They're just not. They scored 3 points on fucking Carolina. Seriously? How do you bet that team over? Now, they'll be pissed. Maybe they run the ball more. They should run it with Fournette a lot more than they're doing. They should not be averaging 60 yards a game running with Fournette. Their offensive line's banged up, but their receivers are dropping the ball. I'm not thinking I'm going over. The question is, what does Baltimore do? Baltimore's an even team. They score mid-20s, give up mid-20s. Tampa should have things. But let's look at Carolina. Carolina was a W team. They don't score, and they have a over defense. Well, I don't know. They give up about mid-20s against Carolina, and Tampa puts up 3 points against an average, not a great defense, right? Carolina's defense isn't what it used to be. I don't even know who their coach is. So that's what you have there. I see Laugh Out Loud would have had 10 if Mike Evans didn't have Butterfingers. Yeah. Well, I don't buy that it changed the whole complexion of the game because I don't buy that in the first 3 minutes of the game, he drops the pass and that's it. And they're done. They just quit. They walk off the field. Well, he dropped the pass in the first 3 minutes of the game. So that's it. We give up. That's why they still should have found 20 points somewhere. Laugh Loud, great professor. FKN 3 points against Carolina. My God, that was bad. That's really my problem is you can play like Green Bay played, but they lost 23-21. They, at least it was close. Who did Green Bay play Kansas City? Who did Green Bay? They played no, that was New England. I'm trying to think. Giants. Who did they play before the Giants? Green Bay. Yeah, New England 27-24. Okay, they went to Tampa and won 14-12. So, what do you get out of Green Bay? I mean, they're not really scoring. So now it's the will of Rodgers and Brady after getting embarrassed, and they are pissed. Believe me, they're pissed. Yeah, Brady could be a live dog on Thursday. I don't know that Baltimore is the team that can go into Tampa as a favorite. Kansas City, well, they did, and they smoked them. Buffalo, maybe. Philadelphia, maybe. That's it. Dallas, Tampa beat Dallas. See, here's the real strange part. So we go back to week 1, and we got Dallas, Tampa 19-3. Dak Prescott. Where did that team go? I mean, you scored 19 on Dallas. You did something really incredible. So I don't know what you do with Baltimore is not going to hold them. I don't know. They're just not scoring. But Brady's got to be so pissed off. Brady doesn't lose. He doesn't like to lose. And Is he going to walk away like, give me my ball, I'm leaving because I can only play if I win and I'm losing. I think this is it for him. I think this is do or die. I don't see them getting blown out by Baltimore at home. It isn't going to happen. The question is, what do they do to Lamar? So we got to look at Tampa Bay against Atlanta, and they beat them 20-15. I go there because of Mariota, right? Mariota is a running quarterback, basically. He can throw, but he's running. And they had him shut out for 3 quarters. And so I think that's how they handled a running quarterback. Prescott, they did. Let's look at Tampa. So Tampa played Green Bay. We know Rodgers doesn't run. And then they played Kansas City, and they got lit up by Mahomes, which welcome to the club. And then they played Atlanta, and then they played then they played Pitt and lost to Pitt. They couldn't handle the running. They couldn't handle Mitch Trubisky there. That's why I'm really worried. You lost to Pitt, and now you lost to Carolina. Like, okay, that normally they would not lose those games. So this is very confusing. All right. Anyway, what's going on? Todd Bowles isn't a good coach. Some terrible play calling going on. Well, that's where I can understand that on defense. On offense, you would think Brady would just call the plays himself. But yes, I agree with you. It's terrible coaching also going on. Getting used to the new coach who's a lousy coach. I can't believe they made him the coach. Bobby, it was very shocking to see Brady and Rodgers putting up such low scores. Very unusual. Welcome to the club. I'll never go against Mahomes again after the 49ers game. Yeah, they were a good dog against Buffalo. Buffalo got the win. I think it's hard to go against Buffalo. It'll be interesting when they play the Jets because the Jets are looking much better. New England, if Zappe's the quarterback, I would have liked that. But now New England's really damaged themselves and look like shit. I don't think they can handle a running quarterback. So that's it. So Cincinnati over 41. You might get that by Burrow by himself. Cleveland won't stop him. Chubb can score. What I like about Chubb is when they get into the red zone, they hand the ball to Chubb, they score a touchdown. What's my biggest bitch? These teams get down to the 7-8 yard line, and the quarterback tries to throw it 4 plays in a row, and there's no room, right? You can't. The end zone's 10 yards deep, and the receivers don't have to worry about it, or the defense, because they can't go anywhere, right? So they just kind of get together, and the receiver can't outrun them. He goes out of the back of the end. So there's a lot of these little crossing patterns. You're fucked. But if you can run, they can't stop you. Henry and Chubb, these guys are going to get you touchdowns because they can run it in. That's why you need the runner. So even Tampa got Fournette. So they do score when they get down there. My God, didn't they get down there the whole game? 21-3. Oh, my God. I watched the highlights, but it was so boring. I was doing something else. I might have to rewatch it. But I don't think it's turnovers with Brady unless it's hitting the receiver's hands and then going to the other. I just think he's got bad receivers now. It's just I don't know that it can be fixed. Both him and he's got better receivers than Rodgers because he at least has Evans and at least has Godwin, and he at least has Fournette. Green Bay's got to run the ball more than that. The only chance they got against Buffalo is for what's his name, Adams or Jones. For Jones to run the ball 30 times and get 120 yards. It's the only chance Green Bay has to beat Buffalo. And the question is, will Aaron Rodgers allow that to happen? But that's the only way. Aaron Jones is an excellent running back. Like I said, he got 2,000 yards at Wyoming. Fucking Wyoming gets 2,000. So that's the only reason that Josh Allen's any good is he handed the ball off to Jones and they had to key on him. So, excuse me, with that said, that's the only way Green Bay can win. And then you throw in a little Aaron Rodgers. But if he goes back to throw 50 times, they have no chance. And the same thing with Brady. They need to run Fournette 30 times in the game. He's got to get 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, run the ball. Short little passes to James White, who is not on New England anymore. That's what you need from Brady. Forget these long passes. And he needs a tight end. He needs Gronk, who would also, because when you blitz Brady, he needs to just 1-2 get rid of it. And that's really what's missing. So both those teams need to run the ball 30, 40 times. You keep them off the offense off the field. So you keep Lamar off the field by running, and you actually can drive and kick your fucking field goals and don't go 4th and 120. It's the stupidest. The field goal. What are you? Anyway, it's just I don't go against Mahomes. I play the game over. Against Buffalo, I played it over. I wasn't going to play against them. But, that's what we're looking at. So that's the lineup this week. The best teams are my A and Bs. Philadelphia, New England. Well, not New England anymore. Buffalo. There's no Kansas City. And Cincinnati's the B team. There is really no Z team. I would call the Lions the Z team. I call them a W because they score too much. And Pittsburgh, those are really your bet against team. And here's the problem with the league. They're all under teams, right? Here's my under teams: Tampa Bay, Denver, Jacksonville, Carolina, Chicago, Dallas, Tennessee, Houston, the Giants, Washington, Indy, the Niners, the Rams, Green Bay. I mean, they're half the league is an under team. How the hell do you bet that? You can't bet on them. You either bet them as a dog or you bet the game's under. Christopher, do you remember the New England Buffalo game last year? Belichick ran the ball down the throat and only passed. Yeah, that's because it was a rainstorm and real windy, so they couldn't pass. But yes, that's exactly what they should do. My good old Lions. Yeah, I'm in Detroit and I laugh at them all the time. Well, that's what I'm saying that they need to do. But again, that was a rainstorm. But yes, that's exactly what Green Bay needs to do is run the fucking ball with Jones 30, 40 times. Just keep running them. Just get your first downs, move the ball, keep the clock running, keep Allen off the field is your only chance for victory. In Tampa, I don't know what to say there. I mean, Baltimore's got such a weak defense that he should shred them, but he's so bad, I don't know really what to say with that. So we'll have to see. But that's what you need to do. I mean, if you're a good running team, you can beat any of these teams. It's when you're trying to pass and you throw the interceptions and you guys drop the ball and you go for 4th down 52 times, that's when you don't win. I'd be curious with a stat, teams that went for it and on 4th down and didn't make it if they won the game. And I would probably bet that 75 to 80% of the time they lost the game. And they lost it right after they didn't get the 4th down and they pumped the other team up and the other team drove for a touchdown and won the game. And I kind of made a mental note looking at the highlights where I saw a lot more field goals down deep. Seattle and San Diego, San Diego kicked a lot more field goals. Even Detroit kicked field goals. It wasn't all 4th down. The Jets kicked field goals. So there weren't all this, it's 4th down, I got to go for it. Even though I won't make it, but I got to go. I got to be aggressive. I mean, it's okay. That's how you lose. So I'm wondering that stat, teams that go for it 4th down and don't make it, don't win, and teams that go for 2 near the end of the game, instead of kicking your extra point, it's probably 100% that they lose. I remember the Jacksonville coach Marone would go for 2. It's 17-10. They scored 17-16. He goes for 2. About 5 or 6 times, they never made it. And then he's looking for a job because they won 3 games when he could have tied the game up, gone to overtime. Even if you get ties, it's better than losing. But you got to have faith that you can score. What kind of offense are you running? And that's really what I see. It's just so many bad coaches out there. It's just ridiculous. Do you see Dolphins versus Steelers up 16-10 in the fourth? Yeah. Uh, there's no I did some research on who this Dolphin coach is, and he's nobody. He's a nothing. He was like an assistant. He's like the Lions coach, and then he was a offensive assistant to Shanahan, not an offensive coordinator. He was like an offensive assistant to Kyle Shanahan for a couple of years, and then they made him the offensive coordinator last year, which they sucked offensively last year. The Niners, they weren't. I think they were good, and then they flattened out, and then it was all Deebo Samuel running the ball, which hardly give the credit to the coordinator. And he had Garoppolo. So after now doing some research on who this idiot is, I don't have any faith in Miami. Again, you're hiring coaches. Oh, well, he coached under. He wasn't a head coach. He's never been a head coach, and he was an assistant offensive coordinator for 1 year, and you're making him your head coach. It's insane. These guys don't know how to fucking coach. Look at the Lions coach. He's never coached before. At least get a guy who's coached high school or he knows how to operate. What the fuck? You're telling me you can't find a head coach with head coaching experience? Now, I know the Lions, nobody wants to coach here, so I can see that. Like, you couldn't get like the Cincinnati college coach. Like, he's good from Ohio State, and Cincinnati's a good team. Yeah, I could see hiring that guy. He wouldn't go to Michigan State. I doubt he's coming to the Lions. I don't think they like any Michigan because they're all Ohio State things, but he didn't, why didn't you go after him? He looks good. Luke Fickell, or the, a lot of these coaches, well, the Baylor coach Rule did try and he sucked. So, but I don't know if he sucked. They just didn't have a quarterback. When your quarterback's Darnell, and he had a better quarterback at Baylor, it's awfully hard for these guys. Derek, that's why I don't understand Harbaugh. You got the best kicker, Tucker, but you choose to roll the dice. Well, he does kick when he can, but yeah, he's losing his mind, Harbaugh. Bobby, they should hire the professor. Well, I should be the GM. I agree with you. If I was the GM, my teams would be in the playoffs every year. They don't even know what to look for, right? I thought that Zappy, looking at him in Western Kentucky last year, 59 touchdowns and 4 picks, and he doesn't go to the 5th round. What the fuck? And then they finally put him in because of injuries, and he lights everything up. Like, yeah, I knew that. That's what I knew. And I also know that Malik Willis is going to do crap, and Pickett I didn't see as a first rounder, and I didn't see Trubisky as a first rounder. And I didn't see Josh Rosen, or I thought he'd be better, but I didn't. Some of those guys in that class, I didn't like. They were the top. I didn't see Tagovailoa as a number 3 pick. I did see Burrow as the 1. I didn't see Fields, Lance, or Tagovailoa. I would have rather had the guys later on, like this guy Trask from Florida who went to Tampa. But this year, it's just you got a ton of quarterbacks, right? You got Rising from Utah, you got Van Dyke from Miami, you got Hooker from Tennessee, you got McCall from Charlotte or from Coastal Carolina, you got Sanders from Oak State. You've got even the Oklahoma quarterback's pretty good. The Oregon quarterback, Bo Nix, is lighting it up. Thompson Robinson from UCLA, Williams from USA. There's 10 quarterbacks that I could pick in the first round and my team would make the playoffs with. And yet they'll take some guy. They'll take the guy from Alabama. I don't know why. He runs a system. He's not Rising. These guys are much better than him. And yet they'll draft him. Then they wonder, just like Tagovailoa, well, he's not really that good. So it's pretty obvious what's going on. They make poor draft decisions, poor in-game decisions, and horrible clock management at the end of the games, and go for fourth down and go for two way too much. Agreed. These quarterbacks at the larger, well-known schools always get favored in drafts, and they're such busts. Give me Wake Forest. Yeah, give me Hartman too. I forgot Hartman, but that's what I'm saying. Rising and Hartman are the best two quarterbacks, and this hooker. That's who I go after, but it's becoming like a marketing thing, right? They market Tagliavua or Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence sucks, and yet they market him like he'll be the market guy. So it's almost like, are you running a football league or are you trying to market the players? They did that with LeBron James. I had to stop watching basketball. I couldn't take that, but they try to, Steph Curry's the best player in the league, and yet they market LeBron. And then the same thing here. Why aren't you marketing Mahomes and Russell Wilson, Brady and Rodgers until now? But you got a shitload of good quarterbacks coming. Why aren't you marketing Burrow? He's superstar. That's really where the league's like. Really, you're gonna market Tagliavua, who basically sucks, or Trevor Lawrence, who So I don't know what's really going on. Why are they playing in London? Obviously, London's giving them a check. Aren't you getting enough money from Prime now on Thursday night? Who would get Prime to watch a Thursday? Maybe this week with Baltimore, Tampa, but these other weeks, you're gonna buy Prime in the middle of a depression. You're gonna waste your money on buying Amazon Prime. I don't know what it costs. I'm not interested. I'll watch it on YouTube. Why you're buying the NFL Network? What the fuck is all that crap? Just put the game on. Monday night should be on ABC. Period. And then everything should be on ABC, NBC, and CBS or Fox. That's it. You got to let the public watch it. When you start doing this bullshit, why do you have a Thursday night game? Because it's the only game you want viewers. And then you put it on Prime. Who the fuck's buying Prime to watch the game? What else would you buy Prime for? Christopher, these quarterbacks at the okay, we already did that. Derek, I thought I had a chance with Zappy. The score was 14-10, and the wheels fell off. Fields went crazy throwing and running. Defense blanketed Zappy. End of game. That money could be invested on gold and silver. Yeah, I mean, Derek, my problem, Derek, was that they didn't blitz Fields. Fields should not have gotten off. Look what Washington. He played 12-7 against Washington. Where was the blitzing of Fields? They let him sit back and run all over the place. That was the problem. Bobby, it's funny. I start thinking like that now. I could do this, or I could go to Vegas, or I could buy an ounce of gold. I buy the ounce of gold because when it goes up, then I can always go back to Vegas. But I just am taking my mind. I got a girlfriend in Romania. I go in the Ukraine too. She keeps asking me for money, and I go, I don't have any money. It's all in gold and silver, and I refuse to sell gold and silver to give you money at these prices. Gold's $1,800 an ounce. I'm going to sell it when it hits $50,000 an ounce. And I heard $100,000 an ounce yesterday. I just smiled from my guy in Britain. And I guess the way you have to look at it, and I struggle with people who don't get it, is the whole world's money is fiat, which means government backed, not backed by gold or silver or anything, including Bitcoin. And it's all collapsing. And the only out is gold and silver, not Bitcoin. When I hear Bitcoin, I go, but it's not an asset and it's not money. It's, I guess you assume it like a baseball card. It's a collectible. It's not money. See, people keep thinking it's money or gold. It's not. So don't go into that. Go into Mickey Mantle or go into Tom Brady before you go into Bitcoin. It's much more limited. If you're thinking Bitcoin's only 21 million is supposed to be a limited number, when I got 99 count Brady cards worth $20,000, like what the fuck? So keep in mind, that's what's happening is the economy around the world and these fiat currencies is collapsing. Gold and silver don't really go up, just like Cheerios isn't really going up. The value of these dollars of the currencies are dropping, which makes it need more currency to buy the same thing. So here I showed you the $100 bill. So here, this is Cheerios. I need $5. Now the value of the dollar is dropping because they're inflating it. And now I need $6 or $7. This hasn't really gone up in price. This is going down. Well, gold and silver have been suppressed illegally by JP Morgan. And I've shown you that article where they were prosecuted. They've lost the case where there's 3 guys from JP Morgan said, yes, we fixed the price of gold and silver. And we're just waiting for COMEX to collapse. It's already out. Everybody in India, China, all the BRICS countries are buying gold and silver at these prices because they know it's not going to last. And once they start doing this, and Moscow is coming up with a real physical gold, it's going to be so high, it's a joke. And it's not an investment from the standpoint of if you were to buy it at 50,000, it's not going to go up to 60 because it's an investment. It's only going up because the dollar is dropping. It's an asset. That's really what's happening here. But then you'll have this asset worth a hell of a lot of money because everybody left in paper is all going to be crying, going, "Oh shit, I had 300,000. Now I have 0." I feel bad for the athletes, Bobby. Like like a Verlander, he's going to lose all his money, and here he makes millions of dollars because millions of inflated fiat currency paper. Here's your dollar. This is a dollar. I showed you my gold and silver. This is a US dollar. This is what it is. It's paper. So if I got $1 million of that and it goes to 0, what do I got? I got 0. But if he gets it into gold and silver, his $1 million, now he's got $1 billion because it's going to times 50. Well, let's say it's 2,000 an ounce. It'll times at least 25. So because it's been held down, because the U.S. doesn't want you to own gold and silver, they can't make you slaves if you own gold and silver. Then you're free, and they don't want you to be free. They want to control you because they want your vote, because they want to be in power, even though they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're worse than the NFL. This is like an NFL GM. This is like the Lions GM and coach running the country. This is exactly what you have. You have these idiots running the country, ruining the money. How the fuck do you ruin the money? You have one job. Just keep it strong. Don't print. And yet, what have they done? COVID was just a scheme to get them to inflate, to get them off the dollar. Because they put in, between Trump and Biden, they put in like $9 trillion of cash, and the real debt's not 30 trillion, it's 90 trillion. So you're fucked. You can't keep raising interest rates. It'll just blow up, and they'll eventually have to go to dollars backed by gold and silver, which, what does that do to the price of gold and silver? Because you can't come out with more paper. You've already played that game. You can't do it again. So that's what's happening. I'll do an economics thing tomorrow, but basically, you can't leave any money in the bank because just look what happened in China. The banks are shut down. You can't get your money out of it. It happened in Sri Lanka. All these watch what happens in the UK. You saw it in Canada. So watch what happens in the UK when they're going broke. And Japan, are they going to be able to get their money out of the banks, or are the banks going to shut down? That's the blueprint. You watch what they do. We've already seen China close the doors. So now you got $500,000 in the bank, and you think you're safe. That's why you don't listen to people like me, is because you feel comfortable. I got 500 grand in US dollars. If you have 500 grand in gold, you don't need to listen to me. You've already listened to me. You got $500 in dollars, you're fucked because it's times 0. You are not going to have any money. You don't understand that. That's what I keep trying to get the point. And I don't understand when people don't listen, is because they're in a comfort level of, well, that's not going to happen here. It's the U.S. Because last time in the 70s, we had the hyperinflation of 20%, and they raised the rates to 20%. Well, they can't do it now. You got a $90 trillion debt. At that point, they didn't have very much debt. So now you've ruined the money. Raising the interest rates help you because you can't raise them to 20%. You've already killed the economy. So that's what's happening. So those who have the gold make the rule, and those who have the gold are China, Russia, India, the BRICS countries. Saudi Arabia is getting some. That's who owns the gold, and they're the ones who make the rules. And my advice is to start learning Russian and Chinese, because you're in big fucking trouble here, because you want Biden to help you, or you want Campbell, the Lions coach, to help you. That's basically what you got. But if you got gold and silver, not only are you going to make 25, 50 times on your money, it'll be actual money that you can use to go to the grocery store and buy a nice house for nothing and buy a nice car for, nothing. Silver probably hit 5,000. Gold, I thought 50, might even be 70 or 80. And then what'll eventually happen when the dollar crashes, don't worry, gold will be just priced in gold, like in Roman times, right? In Roman times, it was gold and silver, and that was money, and that's what they bought things with. So we don't need it backed by the U.S. dollar for gold to have value. Gold's value will be, I can buy a nice $1 million house with an ounce of gold. That'll be gold's value. You'll trade for things that have value. That's why you try to collect as much of it now, because when it hits 50,000 an ounce, who the fuck's got $50,000 to buy an ounce of gold? And by that time, it already shot up. It's like Bitcoin hitting 70, 80 grand. You don't buy now, then where's it going to go? It doesn't go anywhere. It's not even real. So that's the point. But gold will go to 50. Now's the time to get it when it's low. It hits 50, really going to be hard to buy. And then where's it really going to go? Maybe it goes to 100. It'll go to $0. It'll just be its own asset and be worth a fortune, basically. So you'll buy a nice house with it. But that's my point on that. So keep that in mind. So that's basically the show. I'm glad I reset because I wasn't seeing comments on the first one. So if you left comments on the first video, I apologize, but I couldn't see them. That's why I got off, and now it's working fine. So I usually see Teaser King on the bottom. I didn't see it. I didn't see anything on the bottom. So I couldn't see even my name or your chats. And the point I do it live is exactly for these questions and comments. So don't feel bad. Just, I do get upset if you start insulting me. I don't find that's a place for a classroom. And again, I'm teaching you how to fish as opposed to giving you a fish. So all the other handicappers will give you a game and you bet it. You don't know why you bet it. And then you got to go back to them to get the next game. I'm teaching you how to pick it. Look at Nick. Nick's right on. I like Oakland over and the Dallas under, which are very good plays. And you notice the line's jumping on them exactly the same way Nick's doing it. So Nick's he's learning what I'm teaching him. But this is the right way to learn. He wanted to do formulas, but you can't formula the games because you got to take into all the variables, the emotion and everything else. Backs against the wall aren't in the variable. Over and under teams, maybe you're looking at total points, but how could you even formula all that shit? Bobby, well, that's tomorrow. Yes, we'll make it good. I've been looking at my notes from my master's program. So I had a master's program in Austrian economics and corporate finance. So I pulled out all my notes from Austrian economics. So you're learning Austrian economics from an Austrian economics teacher who taught me, who I'm the messenger now, but I know it very well. I understand everything that's going on. Most people don't, because they talk gibberish on purpose. So when the Fed says da 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 da, and everybody goes, "What the fuck did he just say?" He's doing it on purpose. He doesn't want you to understand what inflation is. The biggest thing that they won't tell you, the government, is that inflation is the devaluation of the money, making it worthless. What do they keep saying? Prices. Well, we're comparing the prices and we'll get that down to 2%, or we'll lower the prices, whatever. That's what they're trying to do, as they think that's inflation. But it's all the money and raising these interest rates. They're trying to raise the interest rate to slow the economy to get the prices down. That's not what you do. That's not how you stop inflation. The only way to stop it is to actually make it 20%, and then everybody goes back in the bank. But once the confidence gone in the dollar, as it is going to be in Japan, as it is in the UK, as it will be in Euro, it was in Russia till they backed it by gold, and then Pakistan and Greece, all these countries. Once you lose confidence, there's no value. Nobody wants it. It's no demand. So it's like you make a new food and nobody wants it. It's got no value. You made this really strange pizza. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants it. The value is zero because you can't get a market, right? What do I teach you about market, right? What's the market willing to pay for this? $50. Well, if you put it at $5 and nobody bought it, there's no market for it. This has zero value. So you got to make sure you make it. There's a value to it. And that's what the US dollar, who's going to want it? People in the US want it now, but once they realize it's shit, it's gone. And all these BRICS countries are using dollars backed by gold, and gold's where to put your money. Nobody will want the dollar anymore. But most people are asleep and they think, well, we're in the US, nothing can happen here. Look at us, and it's business as usual. You walk into Kroger's or Target, and people are there. People, you see businesses. I warned my boss when I left. I said to him, "You got about 6 months, and then you'll be out of business because it's a small company. They're going to let you fold. The bank's not going to reload your loan." He looked at me puzzled, and this is the CFO, and I just said, "You're out. You're gone. You'll be closed. Good luck to you, but I really don't wish it because what you just did to me, you let the brains of the company go. Well, okay, good luck. You're smarter than I am, even though I'm smarter than he is, and he's the CFO. So that's what we got. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm going to dig in. College, 4 locks posted already. As soon as I saw them, I said, this is a joke. I got to get them in before the line moves. So I've got 4 locks. 4 teams, 2 locks posted in college already, 21 unit ones. Pros, I'm just digesting. We'll see what we do. We'll see how we play Buffalo and Tampa and, Oakland, New Orleans, the Dallas game. Dallas seems to be the sound defensive team we can trust. What do we do with the Jets? Who's the quarterback in New England? The Giants as a dog. Is Metcalf playing? So we got a few questions to answer, but it looks good. I think I've figured out the pros now. Again, New England. That was a terrible lock, but I thought Zappy was the quarterback. So when I locked it, it was Zappy. Then I go to Mac Jones. And I go, what the fuck are they doing? And as soon as they did that, you heard me yesterday going, you got to trap the game. You got to get off of it because Jones is terrible. So we'll go from there. Anyway, have a nice day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. If you need me, www.teaserking.com. Get my email, and that I'll see. I can't come on to YouTube. How would we communicate here? Except for that's why I do it live, so you can. But no, email me. That's fine. My Canadian friend he wants to join, but he wants to pay me in Canadian dollars. So I said, well, the FX rate's $1.35. So if you want to buy for $100, you got to pay me $1.35 Canadian. So he's trying to pay me 100 Canadian. It doesn't work that way. Just send me silver and I'll take that. All right, everybody. Have a great day. And time to study. All right. Take care, everybody. www.teaserking.com. Have a nice day.